I am Darkecha on page Avodah. We began this Maimer before Yom Tov, before the Yom Tov, and it doesn't end. Teshuvah isn't something that one does only because he's made mistakes. Teshuvah is a way of life. That's something that we've been learning about long before we read this Maimer together. It's a way of life, Teshuvah. And that's what we're talking about right now. Page Vav, Aish Vav. It says, the whole meaning of Teshuvah is Ischachus. It's Ischachus. Ischachus means to start again. It's to begin. The whole tachlis of Teshuvah and the yesod of Teshuvah that we've been talking about, unlike a lot of how a lot of the impressions that we have from over the years, the tachlis of Teshuvah is very simply to return to Hashem, to come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, closeness, scarfus to Hashem. All the things that we've learned about Teshuvah are supposed to be strategies of return, ways of returning, not for the purpose of drowning us in misery and remorse and guilt and so on, which are emotions that when they're extreme, usually have the opposite effect. Do not bring to any ischachus, anything new at all. Just cause a person to stagnate and to remain, or to even go deeper and deeper into the problems of their past. So ischachus. And a person is zoiche. And there's his iris of Ratzon. His iris, however it came. There is this desire, a feeling of wanting to get closer to Hashem, of wanting to change. To begin to really be an Oved Hashem. That, of course, would be a terrible blow to the Yetzer Hara if this person becomes an Oved Hashem. So the Yetzer Hara comes with a very strong kind of a time, like halay chatasa v'kilkalta. Your whole life is filled with averos, chatasa v'kilkalta, and you've ruined so many things in your life. Eincha mushlam b'chlal. You're b'chlal not an ish shalom, and the likelihood is that you're going to be continuing on with a lot of these things anyway. V'echtucha lehidavik b'Hashem Yisborach. How can a person like you be davik to Hashem Yisborach? U'be'emes lo rak l'maschil. The truth is, this is not something that the Yetzer Hara says only for those Jews who have, for the first time in their lives, decided to take Yiddishkeit very seriously, to become Oved Hashem. It's not just the maschil. This is, of course, this is something that even a person whose entire life, for many, many years, has tried to be an Oved Hashem, serious about Yiddishkeit. Nevertheless, everybody knows, each person knows, hello, ain't shleimus. There's no shleimus. There's no perfection. The avodah of lech lecha is to the time that a person dies. Lech lecha, to go and to go and to go and to move and to try to keep on going. That's one's entire life. There's no shleimus. The Talmud Yesh Dvarim Shetzarach L'Sakin L'Shaper. There are always things that need to be improved, to be repaired. Was the Yitzhar Mekaske Slema. So therefore, the Yitzhar always has material. With every person, the Yitzhar has material. We see that even from the big tzaddikim stories that we have, even from the tzaddikim from Tanakh. The Yitzhar always has material to work with. The Yitzhar therefore could always say to a person, Tira Ma'asisa, look what you did. K'va'ein charoy, you're disqualified. U'bezehu manasa li'aish adam, and this is for the purpose of bringing the person to Yeush. Latzliach ba'avodah. It's the nature of a person that if somebody is a mechanic or a plumber, and everything that he works with still is not working. Whatever he's fixing is not fixed. So an intelligent person over time would choose a different profession. So someone would put his arm around him and say, listen, you're a nice guy, you're a smart guy. Have you ever considered doing something besides plumbing? It's a loholech, So it's a very, very pashut maskana to reach, an obvious maskana to reach. That it's the nature of a person that if you're not maslich with something, you leave it. There's some people that they stay on for too long. It's something that they're not good at. Mostly the other people who are watching that feel bad. It's pathetic. One of the things that I always admired when I was watching, growing up watching ball, was when you had a great ball player who knew when it was time to retire. It's a natural thing. And the teva of a person is that if you're not maslich at something, you retire. So one could have that feeling. It's very natural to have that feeling when it comes to davening and Vekas Bashem. It's not my thing. I've actually had conversations with people. They tell me in those words. It's not my thing. But it can't be that it's not your thing. You're a Jew. If a person says, if a human being says, let's say somebody's having trouble breathing, and he says, listen, breathing is not my thing. What do you mean? You're a human being. You can't say breathing is not my thing. You could say swimming is not my thing because you're not a fish. But you can't say breathing is not my thing. You're a human being. Yiddishkeit, it can't be that a Jew should say that Yiddishkeit is not my thing. It's not your thing. It is your thing. It's who you are. It defines the essence of your being. It's who you are. It is your thing. But this is how the Yetzer Hara works. You're not matzliach. Ki hakishlein is garmim la'adam, because nobody wants to fail. Nobody wants to look at himself as a failure. Ki hakishlein is garmim la'adam, but when a person sees that there's something he's failing at, time after time, that he's failing. Ki hakishlein is garmim la'adam sheyachshav shu en yochel atzliach. Like the plumber who can't fix the pipes, the electrician who can't fix the wires. Over time, you just come to the conclusion this is not something I can do. I'm not matzliach. So same thing when it comes to each kind of person feels, I'm not matzliach. And when a person comes to that conclusion, it's not like this. It's not that some sort of a moment of like eureka. It's just this subtle feeling that people have that they don't articulate, or they don't actually even realize that they've given up. Sometimes a person knows that and it's very clear. Other times it's just the way that we daven and the way that we go about doing our business, and just going on and on and on with the same aveiros and the same stuff, and nothing changes. It doesn't say to himself, this is because I'm a failure. He doesn't say those things to himself. It's just that He knows that. He knows and he feels that deep inside that he's a failure, and therefore it takes away any desire for his chashes, because he knows that anything that I've ever tried doesn't work. And a healthy person, a normal person, so you try and you work at something, it doesn't go, you try something different. It doesn't go. So it extinguishes the cheshek that a person has and the ratzon that a person has to try. Because he feels that mimela. Because he feels that mimela is not much there. Then he goes into that mode of yeyush. And then he just gives up, stops the avodah. Doesn't mean necessarily that he stops, keeping mitzvahs, stopping it from a person. There are many, many reasons why a Jew would stay on the official program, even though he's not really into it. Not to go through that. Talk about that a lot. It's not for now. There are many reasons why people stay on the program, even though it doesn't seem to have really any particular connection to davening or to Hashem or to mitzvahs. The person stays. So younger people have more of a fire in them, and they can't bear the thought of being stuck in something for their entire lives. So younger people have a tendency, more of a tendency to just run away from it. But as you get older and older, especially if you're already married and you have kids, and everybody's part of the from the from world, and you already have your subscriptions to from magazines and stuff. You don't want to, you don't waste all the money on the subscription, right? So you stay from. So, but the life is a life of yeyush. It's not yeyush. It's giving up. It's just surrender. Within them lava, never not going to be an Oived Hashem. Might as well daven in a tent for an hour and 10 minutes on Shabbos, It's the end of it. I'm done. B'shal kol panim, ena Oived b'chol koichei. Doesn't mean that you go off the derech necessarily. That, of course, many people do, but ena Oived b'chol koichei. He just doesn't put energy into it. Doesn't really put koiches into it. Moshe Weinberger, the way that he really needs to, and the way that he should. Therefore, in order for a Jew to be matzliach in Avodas Hashem, not to look at it, not to look at what was and what was. Now, people that were raised with a certain mahalach and yishkeit, the second they hear that sentence, they go out of their cave. How could you say that? Not to look at what was. As a matter of fact, to say it even stronger, the Tifer Shleimus Chusar says that the word aveira, sin, comes from the word avar, past. That's what he says. He says that a person who gets stuck in the past, he's meshubah to his aveiros. When you're meshubah to the past, you're meshubah to repeat the mistakes of the past. That's what he says to Hershkovich. Avar and aveira is the same shorish. As we'll see, the tzaddikim are not saying that a person doesn't need to do teshuvah over things of the past. That's not the same as a person who's stuck in the past, keeps on going back to the past, keeps on moving the thing back to the beginning of the program. Like on the phone, he goes back to hear all of his, to think about all of his aveiros and so on. Because then it's just going over and over and over the failures of his life, over and over and over, playing them over in his head, playing over the failures again and again and again and again. And he becomes completely stuck in that, completely stuck. Tzarech lo l'stak al mashayit, el lahaschil haschala chadasha. You have to not You have to not take that little bully and move it back to the beginning. You have to go right there. That's the essence of Yiddishkeit. Today. That a person lives in this way, that with that feeling and that way of thinking that I'm beginning today. That's the only way to have his chadshus, rananas, freshness. But it's not just a matter of freshness. A lot of people think that when they hear the word his chadshus, which is found very, very often in Svarim, Chassidish Svarim, Muslim Svarim, when you see the word his chadshus, they right away think of some madrega. That it's a big madrega in Avodas Hashem, his chadshus. Which of course, there are madregas and madregas. The tzaddikim that from one day to the next, they said they couldn't recognize who the person was. The Yida Kodesh, they say that's one of the reasons that they say he was called the Yida Kodesh, because it's like yesterday he wasn't even a Jew, and today he's a Jew. It was the Yida Kodesh. But the truth is that his chadshus is not just the meaning of madregas. His chadshus is so essential and so critical in a person's life, just to prevent him from falling into a place of Aish. It's not just about reaching higher and higher madregas and stories that you hear about the tzaddikim that his chadshus and every day was something totally different and totally new, and yesterday was nothing compared to today. Those are all beautiful madregas, but the truth of the matter is, what we're learning, and everybody can understand, is that unless a person is mischavish, then Yeyush is something which is very, very not possible, but it's very likely that he'll be in a place of Yeyush. Yeyush again doesn't mean that the person, God forbid, is suicidal. Yeyush means he's just surrendered, he's given up. Without his chadshus, the person will be in the place of Yeyush, and Yeyush is not just madregas. Yeyush is, his chadshus is not just madregas. His chadshus is overcoming yesterday. It's overcoming the past. It's overcoming Yeyush. That's the beginning of Teshuvah. Is not to get stuck in the aveirus of the avar. Not to get stuck in the past. Not to think about them. And even that's why we spoke about this many, many times, that there were many tzaddikim who held it. The vidui, you should just say the vidui quickly, and not to linger on these things. So when you're doing better, you can do tshuva for someone to say to be not to be dishonest, and to be mindful of the mistakes, but not to sit around like people do for an hour on 2 hours on al-chait, and then adding more from others from additional al-chaits that they find in others from, to start finding machzarim or little booklets that have more al-chaits because they don't have enough al-chaits in the machzor. So the ikar is to move forward. That's the ikar is lech lecha. Daber el b'nei Yisrael v'Yisrael, to move forward. You're telling me to move forward. How's that possible? How could I forget what life was like, in Ur Kasdim, and that I was an Oved of Azar? Even though, as you know, there's a different extreme opinions in Chazal about when was it that Avraham Avinu was hikar as Baruch, when did Avraham Avinu recognize that there's a Baruch Olam? It says 3. It says 40. Rambam and Ravid and so on. There are different opinions that are focused on different times in his life in Chazal. But when you look in the Mefarshim, if you look at the Meiri, it says this, and other Mefarshim say that it wasn't that Avraham Avinu all of a sudden made this decision in 1 second to be makar his bar. Means it was from the time that he was 3 until he was 40. He was struggling with it. And the simple pshat in the Midrashim, the Chazal, is that the early part of Avraham Avinu's life was filled with Avodah Zarah. Was filled with Avodah Zarah. Akadei kach, that Chazal bring the pasuk that Hashem told Avraham Avinu, "L'chatal yaldusecha," that you're able to return to the pureness of your youth. In other words, Avraham Avinu was troubled by this. That how could he be an Oved Hashem, a true Oved Hashem, if his whole life, until he was, all of the years growing up, it wasn't just through, when he became 3, then he was like, the Anuka of the ancient world. He was an Oved Avodah Zarah. Chazal said it beferish, that Avraham was stuck with that thought that here I am, especially when Hashem told him to bring Yitzchak for the Akedah, and it like triggered all the memories of other stuff that he used to bring on the Mizbeach, He was busy making sacrifices for many, many years when he was younger. And so here I am, and I'm now supposed to be an Oved Hashem and to listen to what Hashem's Baruch says. So his whole early life was mired in the darkest things that we can't even imagine. And Hashem told him, "Chatal yaldusecha," just like the morning dew, the tal every single day, it brings a freshness and something which is new. So also you could become like a child. You can go back to that time when you were born, when you came to the world. Avraham Avinu had thoughts of the past. It wasn't just like it. Hashem told him the same way that the tal is parech, that the tal comes and then the sun and the tal disintegrates. So too your averos are parchim. All the averos that you did, all the things that you did that were wrong, are parchim. They disintegrate. It's gone. But Avraham Avinu had a hard time with that. How does the past disintegrate? It's a hard thing. Especially if there are certain shirayim from the past that remain in the present. How does the past disintegrate? So a person has to believe in Teshuvah. Hashem's Baruch gave us this mitzvah. It's not just a mitzvah of Teshuvah, it's the koach of Teshuvah. It's not just the mitzvah of Teshuvah, to Mekayim the mitzvah, it's the koach of Teshuvah. Shal yoda ha'odam misnake mikol chatov. It means believing that Teshuvah works and that and all of the past is clean, is erased. Adam sheshav b'teshuvah miyadu niya naki. That when a person does teshuvah, he's immediately naki, clean. All the averos are forgiven. You could open up a new page. With his chadshus and tikvah. And as we spoke about a lot, this also includes a person who knows that he still has things that he hasn't yet been able to fix. A lot of time we spent on that over the years, and this year also, Parnes HaShavua too. There are things that still need to be fixed, and things that are still in a place that is not necessarily at all the way that it should be b'shleimus. It doesn't mean that he's not in the sugi of Teshuvah. The person's trying. He's forgiven for the past. The person has to believe in the great love that Hashem has, the great rachmanis that Hashem has in it. In the love and the rachmanis of Hashem, the person has to believe in that. that Hashem Baruch has given us this tremendous koach of Teshuvah. Shekashi Yehudi Chayz Ve'elav Yisbarach, that when a Jew wants to return to him, and he feels sorry. Again, sorry doesn't mean that he wants to kill himself. He's mischared bamis. He feels he regrets doing those things. He's mischared bamis. Makabel al atzmai, and he is makabel upon himself. L'haschel luchya is chaim amitium, to try his best to live a true life, a real, serious, and true life. Azai hu yizbar, then Hashem is menake u'moichek es haver. And Hashem then cleans, completely erases the past. Not only that, but v'hoifach hakol l'toiva, that Hashem changes everything, spins it in a positive way. And even, it's possible that even the mistakes of the past and the affairs of the past are now seen and are looked at by Hashem as being mindless, good things, as we've learned and spoken about so often. It's one of the great mysteries of Teshuvah. Look at Taf Yud, look at the footnote. Taf Yud. Tzrichim Ladaz. Tzrichim Ladaz is Godel Koach HaKoach Shel Teshuvah. A person has to know the great Koach of Teshuvah. Ki Teshuvah ain't rak inyan. A lot of people think Teshuvah is like, it's this funny word that we use a lot, and just growing up, it's part of, learning and a firm way of talking, that this is an inyan, a thing, an inyan, meaning that it's like something here. It's not exactly what is it. It's more of a concept than a reality. Like when someone say, there's an inyan to going to a mikveh every now and then. There's an inyan. So it's a way of sort of distancing yourself from it, while acknowledging that it exists. It's one of these Jewish terms that, you know what I mean. There's an inyan not to talk Lashon Hara. The inyan is not to talk Lashon Hara. It's an inyan like that. What does that mean when you say there's an inyan not to talk Lashon Hara? I mean, it's Chavetz Chaim is Hakama, 36, Lavim, Terais, and Rabban, all kinds of things going on when you talk Lashon Hara. But there's an inyan not to talk Lashon Hara is sort of acknowledging that there's something there that eventually should be addressed at some point before I die. There is something there. I'm not saying there's no inyan of Lashon Hara. Or, there's a person that's like talking a lot in shul, and you corner him and say, no, I know there's an inyan not to talk in shul. It's not, it's an inyan not to talk in shul. It's a way of distancing yourself from something and not changing. By just saying that there's no real word in English for inyan. Because to say thing or matter doesn't capture the flavor of how Jews use that word, inyan. There's an inyan not to do this aveira. There's an inyan to, yes, of course there's an inyan to learn every day. Of course, I know there's an inyan to learn every day. Since when did a mitzvah deraisa become an inyan? A mitzvah until became an inyan. It's not an inyan. Same thing. Many people feel that Teshuvah, yes, Teshuvah is the inyan of Teshuvah. It's a way of avoiding it and not taking responsibility and also not appreciating what it is. You have a lot of people that they're married for many years, and the whole way that you could sum up the whole way of looking at marriage is yes, of course there's an inyan of marriage. So feel bad for a wife who's just an inyan. There's an inyan of marriage. There's an inyan of raising children. Of course there's an inyan of raising children. Why do you yell at your kid and make him miserable and torture your kid? Yes, I know there's an inyan of proper chinuch. I know there's an inyan of proper chinuch. such a it's like an escape. It's a way to escape from facing something, is to say there's an Indian. There's an Indian. It's an Indian. That's what he's saying. Teshuvah ain't like Indian. And the power of Teshuvah is not just there's an Indian. Yes, I heard this Indian that Teshuvah could clean it, can purify. It's not Indian. Mamish works. It's a real thing. It's not an Indian. It's a real thing. Even if a person has violated every aveira of the Torah, nevertheless by Teshuvah, which again, it doesn't mean that you're in a place of shleimus. But this is not. A person has to know that in this world, it's not the need of reaching shleimus. We'll talk about that a little bit tomorrow morning. Svasamis and Parashim. It's not the need of shleimus. That's why it says in Pasuk El Aretz Asher Areka, to the place that I will show you. So why didn't Hashem Yisbarach just tell him where he's going? So, okay, Rashi says, but the pneumius of what Rashi is saying is that the truth of the matter is that you're never really going to get there. The whole ending of life is just moving towards there. You're never going to get there. I mean, he'll get there yourself, of course, but on a deeper level, perfection is not something in this world. It's always that I will show you. It's coming up. But you're not there. And that's the need of Lech Lecha. To move towards something where the tachlis is not getting there, the tachlis is moving there. Those are the first words that Hashem spoke to our father, Avraham Avinu, was not with an address and a destination to say, Tagia. It was with the words Lech Lecha. Going. That's the tachlis of life. But the whole Western education is not the avodah of going someplace. It's only getting someplace. Of getting somewhere. And that's why so many people are discouraged. One of the reasons why so many people are discouraged, because they feel that I'm not getting anywhere. And who told you that the tachlis is getting someplace? The tachlis is going someplace, not getting someplace. That's the tachlis itself, is to go. It's Lech Lecha, is to go. To get someplace. The person doesn't realize they get to many wonderful things and get to many wonderful places, but then it doesn't make a difference because you still have to get up and continue. It's Lech Lecha till the last minute of your life. It's Lech Lecha. Not only that the person is clean and he's starting again, but he's about Teshuvah. About Teshuvah Yosego Mitzadik. It's the greatest of about Teshuvah. It's greater even in many ways than the Tzadik. Back on top, Ches. And therefore, Teshuvah is B'chol Rega Omnan. Kemen she'ein l'adam shleimus. Since, as I just said, that a person is never in a place of shleimus. It's not in a place of shleimus. V'tamid lefi madrigoso yesh lo malasakim. Therefore, every single person on his madrega, there's many things that need to be fixed, that need to be repaired. Imela, noitzer matzav. Imela, what happens is that there's a matzav. Shadam tzarech tamid lasas tshuva. As I said, tshuva is not something you do. Tshuva is a way of life. L'hasam yichad is kol hazman. Tshuva is a way of life. As he says in the note, and all this farm say, Hashem is Ein Sof, and therefore Therefore, there's no end. There's no end. And because of that, there are many people who feel that this causes them to feel that the Teshuvah is not real. The Teshuvah is not real. Because if I already did Teshuvah, then why is it that over and over again I'm working to come back? If I'm there, then why is it that I'm still working on getting there if I'm already there? If a person was working towards getting a degree in school, and he got his degree, then he doesn't have to work anymore for his degree. So he's done. He has his degree. He got there. But when it comes to Yiddishkeit, no matter where you've reached, no matter where you've gotten to, no matter what degree you've gotten, you've received, it doesn't make a difference. You have to, it's lech lecha, lech lecha. It's that. Shuv v'shuv. So what happens is, they think of themselves on some sort of a, what's it called when you're running on the machine and it doesn't go anywhere? A treadmill. And I'm going, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not getting anywhere. Mela, and as a result of that, Einlam Cheshik V'Ratzon. Lasik B'Avodah Mochach Esel Teshuvah. And then Teshuvah just becomes something that it's a seasonal thing. Because a person doesn't want to get in big trouble, doesn't want to get written, doesn't want to have his name in the bad book. So there's this thing that's an Inyan to do Teshuvah. Elul is an Inyan to do Teshuvah. Hashem Kippur is an Inyan to do Teshuvah. He doesn't want to be in the bad book. But he doesn't really have a cheshik or wasn't schadches and to change. We have to look at ourselves honestly. It's only a couple of weeks after Yontif. There's the Roshim, there's the cheshik, there's Klamsa. Because Shuv is not an Indian. It's a way of life. It's every day of your life, every minute of your life. It's Shuv. This feeling is a toast, is a mistake. And it comes from this thought. I always thought that when I was growing up, and what I heard about tshuva is that real tshuva is when you completely transformed yourself. You're an entirely different person, and there are all kinds of sources that the Magidim, that the preachers point to, that indicate that, like the Rambam, Any Oise Adam, I'm not the same person I was, and so on. There are many places that one can find in Chazal and the Sfarim, the Rishonim, and so on, to say that true tshuva means a complete and total transformation. And anything less than that is not tshuva. It's not called tshuva, and therefore you remain a person who's unforgiven. You remain the same person. You're the same person because you see this. You see that you have not fixed everything. So therefore, that's a simon. And again, there are many makars of this. The most popular, always growing up in the picture, that's horrible picture that I always has a little kid. Was the image of Tovel v'Sheretz B'Yodo. That's one of the favorites we had growing up. Right, Tovel v'Sheretz B'Yodo. That you're in the mikveh holding on to I used to always think of something like holding on to a mouse. Right, but Tovel as a little kid, because that was from the earliest memories that we were taught in school. That you're Tovel v'Sheretz B'Yodo. You're in the mikveh, and in the mikveh you're holding on to a rat. You think that you're becoming pure, you're not becoming pure. Because you are, because you still haven't fixed everything. You still haven't done real truth. So you know better than Tovel v'Sheretz B'Yodo. You're like somebody that's in the mikveh, and the mikveh is not making you pure. That image of Tovel v'Sheretz B'Yodo was something that when I was, from the time that I could remember, I used to think about that. Tovel v'Sheretz B'Yodo. and I suspected that I wasn't the only one. There's certain things that can stay with you. And that was an image that was drummed into us over and over and over again. That you're trying to daven better, but you still you still watch television, right? You're trying to daven better, but you still watch television, so that you were told you're a tovel v'sheretz biyad. You're trying to daven, you're trying to take davening seriously, but you're somebody that watches television. Now, I'm not talking about like watches the stuff, that there's now. I'm talking about, harmless things, whatever those things, 50, 60 years ago. So you're total v'sheretz biyad. It was always over and over and over again. Anytime any one of us tried to be a little bit better, to change, the message was always total v'sheretz biyad. Just to see yourself in the mikveh with that horrible little rat with its mustache, you're going up and down there, and it's laughing at you. and you heard the shmuz from the Rabbi that the Yankees, that's the sheretz. That's the sheretz. And he was so filled with himself when he was making that speech. Never thought of asking him, Rabbi, what's your sheretz? Total v'sheretz biyad. Total v'sheretz biyad. Sheretz. That's you're holding on to a sheretz, to a shtickle tumah, and you're going to the mikveh. You think that Hashem forgives you. You think that that's called Teshuvah. It's called Teshuvah. It's not. It's worthless. It's worthless. And every one of those magidim, every one of those preachers, can find sources for such a thing. Lo chaser. You can put together kuntras be'inyan tovel v'sheretz biyad. Be'inyan tovel v'sheretz biyad. Kuntras be'inyan tovel v'sheretz biyad. This is a kuntras be'inyan tovel v'sheretz biyad. That Hashem's not forgiving you because your teshuvah is incomplete. And you're still holding on to certain things, so therefore your tovel v'sheretz biyad. So that's because the person thinks that the inyan teshuvah is l'shapech lios odom shalom b'maisa, to be in a plate of complete shleimus. But amitas pnimius inyan teshuvah, but amitas pnimius inyan teshuvah is hu lachsa lichiyos b'dveikus HaShana. Is every effort that a person makes this minute of my life to try to have more dveikus b'Hashem. B'toich emunah v'akar b'chudot. Emunah, believing in Hashem's wonders and believing that this is the tachlis of my life. Of course there are madregas rabbis. The boy is trying to daven. Is it a higher madrega that he should let go of some of the silliness of what he's watching on the television? Oh, good, it's a higher madregas. That doesn't mean that his davening is can't daven. That doesn't mean that he doesn't have a shame about Teshuvah, that he's not basic with Teshuvah because there are other things that he hasn't gotten to yet. It's not that. They're madregas. There's no end to the lech lecha. They're madregas. So memela, the whole pam sheshov b'teshuvah. Memela, every time that a person is shov b'teshuvah, ain't a stam shuv v'shuv. You shouldn't have this thought, oh, here, I'm trying this again, I'm a failure. I've tried this 1,000 times, it hasn't worked. Like the plumber that doesn't fix the pipe. Every time, he's coming to a more refined place, a deeper place of that recognition of the tachlis of his life and trying to improve. Therefore, even though he's not in the place of shleimus right now, perfect. Even in this particular thing, this area of avodah, it's not b'shleimus. Nevertheless, the pnimius of the inyan of Teshuvah is lahashiv es halev lahashem esbar, is to change that way of thinking, to turn oneself towards Hashem, as opposed to being turned away from Hashem, to turn towards Hashem. To turn towards Hashem. That's what Teshuvah is. But Zeubemis Masala, in this area of facing the right direction, he's for sure Masala. He's for sure improving. He's for sure moving in that direction, facing the right way. Chol pam oid k'tzas. Chol pam oid k'tzas. A little bit more. V'nei Ramos klal. This is not hypocrisy. This is not dishonesty. It's also that word hypocrisy, how it's thrown around in this hypocrisy. That's not hypocrisy. Because the truth is that b'chol pam or b'chol rega, every time and every moment, he's trying to go more and more, grounding himself in that direction of life, setting his sights on that direction of Asher Areka, Har HaMoriah, setting himself in that direction. And each time it's with a stronger and clear hasaga of the truth of the emes. To feel more and more that this is the tachlis of my life. Look at the tough yud base. Of course, a person has to try to actually, practically, to improve his behavior, his life. To try hard as much as you can, the dactic b'maisav to improve. To do what you can do to fulfill Hashem's will. But that's not the ikka nakuda of Teshuvah. El Teshuvah amit is shorosh avikari hayidi v'akar b'Hashem's baruch v'yichudu v'achlata l'shabu l'dabik esatzim. The ikka of Teshuvah, the yesod of Teshuvah is this decision to turn in that direction and to move towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu, knowing that that's the tachlis of my life. Therefore, even though, of course, a person has to have serious resolutions to change and decisions, the sakinus ma'asav to fix things. The difference is that he's doing this gradually and b'simcha. Gradually and b'simcha. Those are the signs of healthy tshuva. B'mesinus u'b'simcha. Yes, I need to work on these things. They need to change. But b'sinus u'b'simcha. Doesn't mean it has to all be perfect today. And it doesn't bring this feeling of depression and despair and misery. That's the ikka of tshuva. As far as this feeling of his chadshus that I'm now with Hashem, that you have right away. And that brings you tremendous simcha. I'm no longer living for myself. I'm living with Hashem. I'm not living by myself. I'm living with the Kodesh Baruch. I moved back in with him. I'm with him. That's a tremendous simcha. There are things that I need to work on the apartment over here to fix up the apartment that I'm living in. I'm saying it, but I'm living here. I'm living with Hashem's Baruch. And the simon of that is simcha, which is so much missing from our community, from our world. Simcha. If a person is connected to Hashem, if he's living with Hashem, miyad, he's nichnas to simcha gedol. He's this tremendous joy. Tremendous joy, even though it needs to be work. It's tremendous joy. If a person marries somebody that he's Meshiga in love with, and they love each other, and they move into studio apartments, or they move into a place that needs to get fixed up, they'll fix it up. But they're together. Well, it's a simcha. It's a tremendous simcha to be together. It's like the baby that feels content, being nursed by the mother. Does what he needs to work on in a happy and healthy way. He works on fixing things, on not sad, not depressed, not gewalt. The simcha. However, when you have a person that takes upon himself all kinds of kabbalas, all kinds of resolutions, and he expects to be the next day tzaddik, or that day tzaddik mushlam, to be a big tzaddik. That's why they tell all these extreme stories that to impress upon the kid that he's got to be like this tzaddik the next day or that day. That shows that this person thinks that the whole inyan of Teshuvah, is just fixing everything. And he thinks that the person I can fix everything. It's a little bit of napikarsis. This way the person is not going to be mitzliach. We know ourselves. This is not really what Teshuvah is about. It's not the essence of Teshuvah. You have to live with the essence of Teshuvah, and from there to work on fixing. But if you're just fixing and you're not in the tachlis of Teshuvah, if you have no interest in being close to the one that you're living with in the apartment, then you don't have much interest in what you're doing. It's a very simple formula. I really don't want to live with you. So why would I invest? But if you really, really want to live with Hashem Yisbarach, then there's cause and reason for investment. I want to invest. I want to live with you. This is the way I want to live. I want to live with Hashem Yisbarach. And if I want to live with Hashem Yisbarach, then I have to get down to work and roll up my sleeves and fix this and work on that. But with a feeling of simcha, with neimus, that I'm improving my living conditions with Hashem Yisbarach. I'm improving my living conditions with the one who I want to live with. Not that I'm fixing something because I'm stuck with the one who I dread. There's a big gap. I'm fixing things is otherwise. There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference. So you have to. That's the yesod of Mishal Tofes is Manas Lasas Lamayl Mashamatam Lo Lefi Madrigos so Zamapilim Os Mishamayis. It's not going to work. He falls. Kdeshi Chapis is Emes Yegil Tshuva Emes Chay Emes Yiskalach Yos Nachon Lahaki Hashem Zbach Yichul David but Chay Emes. We should be zeichet not just to learn it. We should be zeichet to do it. Not